The fluorescent lights hummed their lonely midnight song as Marcus wiped down the executive conference table for the third time that week. His calloused hands moved in practiced circles, erasing the fingerprints of people who earned more in a day than he made in a year. At 42, Marcus Thompson had become invisible, just another pair of hands that kept the gleaming towers of corporate America spotless while the world slept. But tonight was different. Tonight, those same hands would change everything. Marcus had never planned to be a janitor. 10 years ago, he'd been an automotive engineer with a modest home in the suburbs and a beautiful wife who laughed at his terrible jokes. Then came the diagnosis, stage 4 cancer, and watching Emma fight for her life became his only job. He'd burned through their savings, sold the house, and worked 3 jobs to pay for treatments that bought them 18 more precious months together. When she finally slipped away, she left him with their 6-year-old daughter, Lily, a mountain of medical debt and a heart that had forgotten how to dream. The janitorial position at Tech Vance Solutions paid just enough to keep Lily fed and housed in their cramped studio apartment. It offered night shifts that allowed him to walk her to school each morning and pick her up each afternoon, helping with homework at the public library until his shift began at 10. Lily never complained about their powdered milk or thrift store clothes. She'd simply squeeze his hand and say, "We're a team, Daddy," echoing the words he whispered to her every night. Now, as Marcus emptied the trash bins in the executive suite, those words felt like both comfort and weight. He paused at the massive glass window overlooking the city, a sea of lights stretching toward a horizon he'd once believed he could reach. Somewhere out there, Lily was sleeping on their pull-out couch, probably still clutching the stuffed elephant her mother had given her. He'd promised Emma he'd give their daughter a better life. So far he was failing. The conference room table was covered in scattered papers and half-empty coffee cups from the emergency meeting that had run until 11. Marcus had learned to tune out the corporate jargon, but tonight's crisis had been impossible to ignore. Even the cleaning supervisor was talking about it. Tech Vance's flagship software had a critical flaw, something about a security vulnerability that could expose millions of users' financial data. The company had 72 hours to fix it before their biggest client, handling nearly $100 million in daily transactions, walked away. If that happened, the news said Tech Vance would likely collapse, taking 1,200 jobs with it. Marcus gathered the papers to stack them neatly, a small gesture of order in the chaos. That's when he saw it. A complex diagram sprawled across 3 pages, covered in notations and desperate calculations. His hands froze. The design looked familiar, hauntingly so. He'd seen this type of architecture before, back in his engineering days when he'd dabbled in embedded systems programming during night classes. His eyes traced the pathways, and suddenly he wasn't a janitor anymore. He was the man who used to solve puzzles, who used to build things, who used to matter. The vulnerability was obvious to him, a simple oversight in the authentication protocol, hidden in plain sight. But more than that, he could see the fix. It wouldn't require rewriting millions of lines of code. It just needed a small, elegant redirect in the verification sequence. His heart raced as he pulled out his phone, using the last of his monthly data to verify his thinking. 3 searches confirmed it. The solution would take their team maybe an hour to implement, if someone just showed them where to look. Marcus stared at the papers for a long moment. He could walk away. This wasn't his problem. These weren't his people. The executives who sat in these leather chairs didn't know his name, didn't see him when he refilled their coffee stations or emptied their waste paper baskets. He was furniture to them, part of the building's infrastructure, as noticed as the air conditioning vents. But then he thought about the single mother in accounting, who always smiled at him in the elevator, who'd mentioned her son just got accepted to college, about the young programmer who worked late hours like Marcus, who'd once shared his dinner when he noticed Marcus hadn't eaten, about the 1,200 families who'd lose everything if this company went under. People just trying to survive, like him. With shaking hands, Marcus found a clean sheet of paper. His handwriting was rougher than it used to be, his engineering notation a bit rusty. But the solution poured out of him like water from a broken dam. He sketched the flaw, mapped the fix, and wrote step-by-step instructions in language clear enough for anyone to follow. At the bottom he hesitated, then signed it simply MT. Night maintenance. He left the paper centered on the conference table, weighted down by a coffee cup so it wouldn't be missed. Then Marcus finished his shift, clocked out at 6 in the morning, and walked the 40 minutes home to save bus fare, arriving just in time to wake Lily for school. He never expected to hear about it again. 3 days later, Marcus was scrubbing the executive bathroom when his supervisor found him, face flushed and breathless. "Marcus Thompson, the CEO wants to see you now." Fear shot through him. Had he overstepped? Was he being fired for touching confidential documents? The walk to the top floor felt like a death march. Marcus had only seen CEO Victoria, Chen from a distance, a sharp woman in expensive suits who moved through the building like a force of nature. He couldn't imagine why she'd want to see him except to escort him out. The executive assistant led him into an office, so vast it could have housed 3 families. Victoria Chen stood by the window, her back to him. When she turned, Marcus was struck by the tears streaming down her face. "Is it true?" Her voice cracked. "Did you write this?" She held up his paper, now laminated and pristine. Marcus could barely whisper, "Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry if I—" "Sorry?" Victoria laughed, a sound caught between joy and disbelief. "You saved this company. That elegant solution you wrote in 20 minutes? My team of 20 engineers had been working on this problem for 3 weeks. 3 weeks! We implemented your fix in 45 minutes. Our client just renewed their contract for 5 years. Do you understand what you've done?" Marcus stood frozen, unable to process her words. Victoria stepped closer. "Who are you? Your employee file says high school education, no technical background. How did you—" "I used to be an engineer," Marcus heard himself say. "Automotive mostly, but I studied programming. That was before." He trailed off, unsure how to summarize the last decade of loss. Before what? And suddenly it all poured out. Emma's illness, the medical bankruptcy, Lily, the desperate scramble to survive. Marcus had never told anyone this story, had kept it locked away like a shameful secret. But something about Victoria's genuine attention, the way she listened like his words actually mattered, broke something open inside him. When he finished, the office was silent except for the city sounds drifting through the glass. Victoria wiped her eyes. "I have a confession," she said quietly. 15 years ago, I was working 3 jobs to support my sick father while putting myself through business school. I cleaned offices at night, just like you. I know what it costs to be invisible." She walked to her desk and pulled out a folder. "Marcus Thompson, I'm offering you a position as Senior Solutions Architect. The salary is $240,000 a year, plus benefits and stock options. Your team will report directly to me." Marcus felt the room spin. That kind of money was impossible, unreal. I haven't worked in engineering in 10 years. I'm rusty, I don't have current certifications, You saw a solution in seconds that 20 experts couldn't find in weeks. You chose to share it when you could have walked away. You risked your job to help people you didn't know. Victoria's eyes blazed with conviction. "Those aren't skills you learn in certification courses. That's who you are." "I have a daughter," Marcus said, his voice breaking. "I need to be there for her, pick her up from school." "Then we'll make it work. Flexible hours, remote options when needed." "Marcus, I'm not just offering you a job. I'm asking you to help me build a company that values people like you, that understands that brilliance doesn't come with a pedigree." She paused. "But I need to know, will you take this chance?" Marcus thought of Lily, of the promises he'd made to Emma, of all the nights he'd felt like he was drowning. He thought of the man he used to be and the man he might become again. "Yes," he whispered, "yes." The transformation happened quickly. Within a week, Marcus and Lily moved into a real apartment with separate bedrooms. Within a month, he'd assembled a team and solved 3 critical problems that had been plaguing the company's infrastructure. But the real change came when Victoria announced a new company policy at the quarterly meeting. Every employee, from executives to maintenance staff, would participate in monthly innovation sessions. "The best ideas can come from anywhere," she told the assembled crowd. We almost learned that lesson too late. She also established the Thompson Memorial Scholarship, funded by the company, offering full college tuition to children of TechVance employees facing medical hardships. When Marcus learned about it, he couldn't speak for crying. But the moment that truly changed everything came 6 months later, when Marcus brought Lily to the office on a Saturday to show her his work. She was exploring the conference room, the same room where her father had once scrubbed tables, when Victoria walked in. "You must be Lily," Victoria said warmly. "Your dad talks about you constantly." Lily, never shy, studied Victoria with serious eyes. "Did you really give my daddy his dream back?" Victoria knelt down to Lily's level, tears already forming. "Oh, sweetheart, your daddy gave me something more important. He reminded me that compassion and excellence aren't opposites, they're partners. He showed me that the measure of a person isn't where they start, but what they do when nobody's watching." She looked up at Marcus. "Your father didn't just solve a technical problem. He solved a human one. He proved that kindness is never wasted, that helping others when it costs you something, that's when it matters most." Lily beamed and hugged Victoria spontaneously. Over his daughter's head, Marcus and Victoria shared a look of understanding, two people who'd been broken by life and rebuilt by hope, who'd found their way back from invisibility. That night, tucking Lily into her own bed in their apartment, Marcus felt his daughter squeeze his hand. "We're still a team, Daddy," she said sleepily. "Yes, we are, baby girl," Marcus whispered, kissing her forehead. "Yes, we are." As he stood in the doorway watching her drift to sleep, Marcus thought about the single sheet of paper that had changed everything. He hadn't written it expecting recognition or reward. He'd written it because when you've lost everything, you understand that sometimes the smallest act of showing up, of choosing to help, even when you have every reason to walk away, that's what makes us human. The janitor who solved the $100 million problem hadn't just saved a company. He'd reminded everyone who heard his story that dignity isn't determined by job titles, that expertise isn't exclusive to corner offices, and that the hands that clean up after us might hold the very solutions we're desperately seeking. Sometimes salvation comes not from the powerful, but from those who understand powerlessness. Sometimes the invisible people are the ones who see most clearly. And sometimes, just sometimes, the world notices. In the end, Marcus Thompson's story became the one Victoria Chen told at every company meeting, the legend that new employees heard on their first day. Not as a fairy tale about rags to riches, but as a reminder of what they were building together, a place where human value wasn't measured by paychecks or pedigrees, where second chances weren't just possible but celebrated, where the night janitor and the CEO could both cry about what really mattered. Because that's the truth that Marcus's crumpled paper had really spelled out, more clearly than any technical solution. We're all just trying to survive, to matter, to take care of the people we love. And when we remember that about each other, when we choose compassion over indifference, everything changes. The fluorescent lights still hum their midnight song in TechVance's offices. But now, when the cleaning crew makes their rounds, executives stop to learn their names, to ask about their families, to see them. Because Marcus Thompson taught them that visibility is a choice we make about each other, and that sometimes the most sophisticated solution is simply treating people like they matter. They always did. Someone just needed to notice.